Happy holidays, one and all. At Christmas time, the boys and girls across the land are making their Christmas wishes. But what are the country's top college baseball teams wishing for? Stay tuned, because we're about to find out.
Yeah, ain't no problems, that won't problem with me, no. Yeah. Let me talk to the chat. They know I was gone for a minute, had to BRB. Had to grab a couple wins, what I DID. They sleeping on the kid, I had to do it BIG. I can never be average, and they want a problem with the boy, they don't want no static. I don't need your cosign running with God. Wanna test that, tell them what's happening. Took control, run the game. Best believe I'm shining, dog. Counting in my wins, yeah, I love it when they count me out. Off the leash, of the chain, boy, I've been a dog. Best believe I run the game, you know I'm in control of y'all. It's like magic, believe I want that static. Yeah, it's like magic, believe I want that static. Yeah, it's like magic, believe I want that static. Beat them up, knock them out. They really don't want no static.
Ho, 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 ho! And happy December to all of you watching at home. It is College Baseball Now, Prospects Live's only podcast focusing on NCAA baseball in and right here out of season, even in the holiday season. We're always ready for a season of some kind. If I had to poll this group of gentlemen we're with today, I'd say the season we're most ready for, baseball season? Question mark. Nonetheless, it is good to be with you today. I am your host, your friend, your boy, Drew Wheeler. Happy to be with you as always, joined by three of my friends, three of my contemporaries. We're going to start with Mr. Jake Bargery. Jake, when you think about your favorite Christmas gift you've ever gotten, let's say from Santa Claus, what do you have in mind from Santa? What was the best gift he ever gave you?
Wow, this is a tough question, Drew. Let's start us out with a doozy here.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Favorite Christmas present? I'll keep it baseball related. I got an Easton Mako one time for Christmas. I don't know, that bat might be a little too old for some of you guys. Like it's like an orange Easton bat. I was begging for it for so long. One of my best friends had one, and I wanted one so bad, and I got it for Christmas. So I was super excited about that.
That's awesome, man. Those kids didn't know what hit them. Shout out Brandon Degnagard. I'm sure you knocked a couple off him. Although you might have been advanced past the Mako at that point. Shout out Degnagard either way. All right, next to him, we have got Josh Catlett. Josh, when you think about old Saint Nick, what's the best gift the big man ever gave you, buddy?
I'd say mine's probably more of a – well, I use the gift a lot too, but more of the presentation of how I got it. I was – well, 2 routes here. I got tickets to the championship game for football in 2010 out in Phoenix. That was awesome. But the next year, I had asked for a PS3, and Santa had left the game Madden 12 on the couch. We're one of those families where, like, our presents are laid out without, like, being wrapped up from Santa.
You're Madden a good 12, Southern boy. Of course they are.
Exactly, of course. The Madden game itself was laying on the couch, but I didn't see the PlayStation anywhere, and I was really confused. And, my parents were like, oh, I guess Santa just left it. I guess he lost it, whatever happens. And then as my parents and I are going to give our gifts out to each other, I look behind the tree, and the PS3 is sitting behind the tree, and I just lost it, like running around the house going ballistic. So that's a memory that'll always stick with you. That's probably my favorite.
That's a great story. I love that. And yes, of course, Santa didn't wrap his gifts. He left them sitting there. He's got things to do, cookies to eat, and other houses to visit. He's got stuff to do. JB, Sebastiano, good to see you, sir. Nice hat as usual. It's the CWS hat. Like that one. When you think about what jolly old St. Nicholas, the best gift he's ever brought you, what do you get in mind, buddy?
Yeah, there's a few that have been good over the years, but last year I'd say was one that I really like, and I'm a big Anthony Volpe guy. He's been a guy that I really like, not a popular player for everybody, but been somebody I've always liked. And last year I got a really sweet Fanatics frame signed photo, 16 by 20 with his MLB debut inscription on it. So that was sweet. That's up in my man cave here at home. So that's one for me I really liked.
And that's awesome. Great gifts. Great gifts, guys. I'm trying to think of a really good one right off the rip. Whenever I was a wee lad, I do remember coming into the living room early one morning and stumbling upon what else but the Turbo Man action figure from Jingle All the Way, the figure that Arnold Schwarzenegger is looking for his son. And there he was, Turbo Man for me. A good time, a very good time. It was truly turbo time in the Wheeler household that day. And today, for you all, it is time to talk about what college baseball teams may be wishing for. This is an odd topic, guys. I pitched this to you all the other day, saying, "What about guys? What about for the holidays if we say Christmas wishes for some top teams across the country?" Now, you all got to give me credit. Great sports. You're great sports. We've all come up with 5 teams and a wish that they would have for the 2026 season. So, you at home, obviously, you may be like, "This is bizarre. What does he mean by this?" Let's give an example, shall we, of a team that is unassociated at all. Josh, I see behind you. You have the old OKC flag just over your left shoulder. If we were to do this exercise for the Thunder, what would the Thunder be wishing for Christmas, sir?
Uh, break the all-time regular season wins record. That we're 24-1 right now. That's probably the direct goal. Besides going back to back, but something like
Right.
that.
So that would be an acceptable Christmas wish for the team. That sets us up for our discussion today. Obviously, a bit of a lighthearted discussion, but I think it's going to provide some really interesting conversation points for a couple of the major teams across the country. Not to get into it and spoil it, but this is a good group of 20 teams, guys. So we have got a lot of good teams to talk about, and we're going to get right to it. And Josh, we are going to stick with you because you are the first name on this list. It is a pretty simple process. We're going to stick with it because it works. Josh, your first team who is approaching Santa Claus, please, and what is their wish on Christmas?
Yeah, my first team is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm sticking mostly SEC today. Shocker, what's new? Georgia, there's a lot of different routes I could go with this team and the transfer class they brought in, but I think the key to this team's success with the most question marks behind it is Wes Johnson's ability to turn this weekend rotation into a cohesive unit. So, under the tree on Christmas morning, Georgia fans want to see this staff develop their pitchers like they've been promised. I mean, like, I've seen countless people talk about the ceiling of this pitching staff, but at the end of the day, let me read you their ERAs from last year at Power Conference programs: 601, 399, 425, 602. Not the best. And I mean, that's no easy fix, but it goes to show you the trust that players and other people around the country have in Wes Johnson to be able to, fine tune these new guys and get the most out of them. Specifically, the 2 Stanford guys, and Joey Volchko, Matt Scott. They've yet to put up the production that everyone knows they have the potential to. So it's more like, can Georgia turn them into guys that are reliable enough where the Dogs don't have to just out hit everybody to win games?
I think that's going to be critical. I certainly agree with you on that one. As a matter of fact, when you picked Georgia first, it was a little bit of a bummer, Josh, because I had that same thought in mind: is can Wes Johnson work the magic? Maybe Santa can deliver a little bit of his magic to Wes Johnson. I mean, those are
The Christmas miracle.
two very powerful forces of nature, Santa Claus and Wes Johnson. So, yes, alas, that's a great wish. And Georgia fans and fans of any team that we talk about today, chime in down below. If you think that is maybe what your team would hope for, say so. If you think it's something different, let us know in the comments below. And of course, if we didn't talk about your team, obviously we can't talk about 132 teams. That would be a several hours long podcast. Maybe we'll do this again. Who knows? Maybe we'll do New Year's resolutions if you guys are into this episode. We'll see what happens. But let us know in the comments below. But James, we're going to kick it to you here for your first team. What's the wish?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the usual, the North Carolina Tar Heels, and against Josh, I'm going to be taking most of the ACC today to go right up against them. So the Tar Heels, I'd say there's a lot of new transfers in the lineup, but I think that's not really the concern. I think mostly it's going to be how the rotation shakes out. Only one returner technically in the rotation with DeCaro. I think it's preying on a bill of health and for the guys to take a step forward in the pen and behind them as well. You got Lynch who's going to move into the rotation, who looked well at the end of the year, but over a longer sample, you hope it holds up, and also Folger Boaz most likely moving back in along with possibly Caden Glauber, the freshman. So I think it's mostly health for them and just seeing strides from guys out of the pen like Flannery or Seagraves and McDuffie, obviously, to come back and do well, and Matthias off an injury. It's guys that they're all going to count on. But if those guys can come back and do what we think they're going to do, North Carolina can find themselves back in Omaha.
I think so. It's odd, a similar wish to Georgia's, but maybe not. Obviously, the transfer flavoring is off of that when it's more we need to see these steps. I'm with you though, JB. I think that's a great point, and it's certainly one we're going to be watching very closely over the next year. Lynch stepping into this role is certainly going to be an interesting thing. And as always, I will shout out the bespectacled homie Walker McDuffie as well. Jake, you've been awful patient, as any good Southern boy would be, waiting to speak to Santa Claus. Not that I'm Santa. No, I'm not Santa Claus. I'm not Santa. But who's your first team, and what's the wish here, pal?
My first team is the Texas A&M Aggies. I have their wish as to just kind of put everything together. I know that's a bold statement there, but for that, avoid injuries and to live up to the hype. Last year, they were universally recognized as the nation's top team in the preseason. I think everywhere you looked, you saw Texas A&M at the top. They ended up going 30-26, 11-19 in the SEC, and they were eliminated by the national champions in the SEC tournament. I think going into this season, one big thing for them, they're going to need someone to kind of step up and lead the pitching staff. They lost a lot of innings with Justin Lampkin and Ryan Prager going in the draft. They brought in Ethan Darden from Clemson. I think he could give them a lot of innings, and then some of these bullpen guys from last year could step up into some starting roles. And the second part for my wish for them was to avoid injuries. As much as we kind of maybe talk bad about their season that they had last year, it wasn't for lack of injuries. Like they lost a lot of innings to injuries to Laviolette, Grahovic, Caden Sorrell, Hayden Schott, a lot of the guys, big hitters in their lineup that they were missing for a big chunk of the season. They have their core this year with, Bear Harrison, Grahovic's coming back. They brought in Chris Akopian from Maryland, potential top 5 draft pick. Caden Sorrell, like I said, he's coming back. As long as they stay healthy and perform, the way they think we're going to, they could definitely make a statement and go as far as that group could carry them. But, we said that last year too, so we'll see.
Interesting that health is the wish here. I think you're right on track. If I had to guess what it would be for A&M, like you said, a lot of injury kind of woes up and down that team, and certainly guys who may have carried some of the excess weight that the injuries set on the team now with professional teams. So it's going to be interesting to see where they step up. Josh, you've got some thoughts on A&M.
Yeah, I think this year could be an interesting spot for A&M because you're going to see a lot of people nationally that if, A&M is ranked at a certain place preseason, you're going to be iffy about it because of how it ended up last year. But it's a lot of guys with power over hit profiles that are really prominent in their lineup. And I think that's just natural that it's going to be, like how last year it was seen as like the best lineup in the country going into the season. I think that it could pan out that way, but it's more how does the staff develop the bat and the ball stuff and help them on that front instead of just focusing all on power and flashiness.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here comes the train. The A&M train is rolling through.
I tried to stop talking just as I heard it coming through. I found a way to. I'm going to mute myself in case it keeps coming. We avoided it in the past. It's so back.
That's okay. The A&M train coming through. All you Aggies, you better show out in the comments. If that's not the Lord saying there's health coming on that train, then I don't know. Comment below. All right, I'll jump in here, guys. Talk about my first team with a Christmas wish, and we are going across the country. I'm going to talk about UCLA, them old dirty Bruins. It's going to be simple, guys. This is a simple wish. We need Rock Chalowski to just be Rock Chalowski from 2025. Not significantly worse. We'll accept better. I'll accept better. on behalf of UCLA. I need to see a repeat. I think that UCLA, what we've seen from them this offseason is they're going to return some talent, obviously. They're going to see some good transfers come in. We obviously saw some players, turn down some opportunities in the draft. UCLA has got a loaded team, but the linchpin of the entire operation is the man at the top, the guy who everybody's eyes are focused on, Rock Chalowski. And I want to say that I think it is critical for him to continue what he did in his sophomore season. If you are unaware, if you happen to miss those final numbers, a 3-4-7 slash line, some insane stuff, 23 home runs, 74 RBIs, walked more than he struck out, and that's by roughly 50%. So 45 walks to 30 strikeouts. Incredible. It's solid defense. I think if we just see Rock, if he posts this exact line again, nothing has changed. And I would dare say his draft stock would even increase from the consistency. UCLA, on the other hand, with a downturn, this could be a tragic turn of events for the Bruins and their hopes for Omaha. So I'm hoping, on behalf of them, their wish is, let's just be the same old Rock. Rock solid, if you will. JB, you've got some thoughts on UCLA or Rock Chalowski.
Yeah, no, I agree with the Rock thing. I think another thing for them too, I think that's big and a big wish for them for Rock to repeat what he did is for the transfers really to step up and some of the guys they have too. I think Gasparino is the biggest one that's really important there. He would provide the protection that he really needs. It's either him or Lavu need to step up to be the protection. And I think also Dean West is very important as well ahead of him, just to be a guy that's going to be able to be driven in for him. And if he gets on base a lot, he gets in scoring position. Rock Chalowski's in great position too. So I think it's those three guys around Chalowski as well that I think for UCLA are really important as well. But I agree, it's a one-man show with Rock, but those other guys can help ease that load on him.
The supporting cast, JB, you're absolutely right. The supporting cast for Chalowski is going to be huge. So let's play a quick game. Really quickly, one-word answers from all of you. Between West, batting in front, obviously, getting on base to be driven in, Lavu and Gasparino kind of falling, I'm assuming, going to be in the 3-4 behind him in whatever order. Which of those has potential to be the biggest sneaky contributor? Like, as in, this guy is the Robin to Chalowski's Batman. No response, or just a one-word response, just a name, maybe not any even detail. JB, who you got of those three?
Lavu.
Josh?
I'd say Gasparino.
Jake?
I had Lavu.
There you go. Okay, so 2-1 it is Lavu. Shout out Dean West. I believe in you. All right.
I don't think Gasparino would be like a sneaky one per se, but I think he's the most, like, he could fluctuate the most, whereas like he's the other guy where if he's performing as well as he did last year at Texas or better, I think that's what makes this team go, because he does have a little, like, higher ceiling, lower floor type of profile.
Without a doubt. Gasparino at times last year was one of the most electric players in the country. For weekends, he looked like, a supernova. And then other weekends he looked center. Absolutely. And then other weekends he looked lost. So, it happens. He's young. It will happen. Josh, we are going to go back to you here for your second team. I'm curious, the line is still pretty long to get to Santa Claus. Who's next?
The Auburn Tigers, right here where I am right now. They're going to be next in line. Stop me if you've heard this before, but under the Christmas tree on Christmas morning, Auburn wants to see some consistency from the weekend rotation. That's the best way I can find out how to word this. This was the issue last year, and it's, to be honest, a Christmas miracle that Sam Dutton panned out as well as he did in that Friday spot. So there was at least some consistency there from week to week. Besides that, Christian Chatterton was like the only real mainstay throughout the year. And even he got the boot at some point, like for a little bit in the middle of the year. Drew Whalen and Chatterton look to be the most likely guys to take on weekend roles, but there's been up to like 6 other names that have been mentioned for that last slot. Like everyone from Andreas Alvarez and Jake Marciano all the way down to Griffin Graves and last year's closer, Ryan Hetzler. Because, they've all been mentioned as pieces that could step into a bigger role this year. It's a really similar story to what we've seen recently from this club. It's lots of parts to fill into like middle relief slots, but a lack of star power at the top, I guess is a good way of putting it. That said, it's very possible for an unexpected guy to take a step up like Dutton did last year. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
So, Josh, let's say hypothetically that your assumptions are correct that we're going Whalen and Chatterton for Friday, Saturday. Two prong question here. Who's your pick? Who would you choose to be the Sunday guy? And then, if you had to put money on who it is, who would you say?
I would. It's so tough because there's been a lot of different people saying different things that you really don't know what. I think the safest bet, based on what we've seen last year, would probably be Alvarez, just because he was one of the guys that, alongside someone like Cam Tilly, took on a starter role in the postseason when it was still the same kind of issue where there's not like an established starter or like multiple established starters. But Andrea stepped into that role and didn't do terribly, so I think that could be a safe bet. Marciano, for my money, is going to be the midweek guy. I I don't know. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be Andreas Alvarez, but I would watch out for someone the likes of like Griffin Graves or maybe even like Mason Cook, who didn't play a lot last year because of injury. He came from Creighton before last year. I think those are guys to keep your eye out for. But there's it could really go any way, and not much would totally shock me at this point.
Understood. Well said. JB, we're going to go back to you, buddy. The second team in line here, they're up. Who is
Yeah,
it? What's the wish?
Yeah, I got a UVA. I think, Pollard moving over to UVA, I think it's one thing that's going to be really interesting for them. And they kind of have a mix of guys that decide to stay with Becker and guys that jump ship and go to Mississippi State. I think for them, the big key, though, are the guys coming from Duke. And the two in particular being Kyle Johnson, who I think they need to get back to his freshman year after really struggling last year. And then Gracia, I think Gracia, a lot of people probably forget at the beginning of last year, had a very awful slump at the beginning of the season, sub 700 OPS. They played against us here at UNC, hit a homer on Sunday, and it kind of catapulted him a little bit into that second half of the season, and that kind of evened out his numbers. I think for them, Gracia needs to continue that second half surge that he had, and Johnson needs to get back to his freshman year. With the numbers pulled up here, he had a 7.19 ERA last season in only 11 starts. Also lost that game against Murray State that they really needed when he was out there. And the year prior, he had a 4.38 ERA in 10 starts, but I think the numbers don't do it justice. He had a 1-run, 6 or 7 inning outing against UNC on the Friday night start, and he was just a dominant presence for them. So I think Johnson just needs to get back to that level, and it'll help even out the rotation.
I think that's a really logical Christmas wish on their part. For Virginia, I think JB, Josh, Jake, none of you would disagree that Virginia has certainly been as much a powerhouse as any other ACC school over the last 10, 20 years. To see them kind of go through such a transitionary period, but you add talent. You get that huge influx of talent from Duke, whether it's commits or players who, like you said, like Johnson and Gracia. It is a huge influx of talent that you almost look at Virginia now and you're like, are we better or worse than last year? I guess that's to be determined, but certainly interesting. And I'm with you. They're certainly going to be one of the most interesting teams to watch, and hopefully their Christmas wish will come true. Jake, to you, sir. Who's next to see the big man, and what's the wish?
Yeah, I'm going with the Tennessee Volunteers. My wish for them is just Josh Elander to have first-year success with the team, both on the field and with retaining his recruiting commitments. I could talk about the players for a very long time, and I think we have a ton of confidence in the players getting the job done. But my focus is going to be on Coach Elander here for this wish. So far, so good on the commitment front. A ton of guys tweeted out that they were going to stay both in the 26 and 27 class, like the day after he was announced as the coach. So that's a really good sign for that. But as we know, things can change minute to minute, even in the recruiting world. These guys could decommit at any point in time. But moving on from that, it might be crazy to say, but he has to kind of prove to himself and to everyone else that he can, one, handle running the program, taking over where, Tony V left off, and also just can he win games as the head coach, right? We have them ranked top 5, so the expectations are high, but there's a reason that so many of the current players, former players, people on the outside were rooting for Josh Elander to get the job. I think everyone has a ton of confidence in him, and just hearing some of the players that moved on to the pros that played under him, just talk about their confidence that they have in him. I think he was certainly the right fit, but he still nonetheless has something to prove, and he just has to prove everyone right at this point.
Yeah, I think in the most unbiased, non-team centric way I could say this, GBO. I totally agree. JB, you've got some thoughts on Tennessee and Coach Elander stepping into the role. What do you think?
I just want to throw out a quick line here, not anything long. We saw Michael Early do a similar thing last year at A&M with everybody at A&M. They all love Michael Early, great coach there, and everybody thought he'd have a lot of success with a very talented team, and it kind of went sideways. So I know it's just kind of not saying it's an Elander thing. I think that he's a great coach as well, and I think that he could have it right in shape from the start, but it's just one thing that I would always throw out as a concern for them. But I agree that's a good wish, just a thought to think about.
Certainly, you make a good point. Obviously, it could be something like like it was with Early. Maybe it is injuries. Like with A&M. Maybe it's something where just the whole season just kind of has a funk about it, and it's not really an Elander thing, but it's just an unfortunate turn of events, so to say. That is a great point. I really, really like that and resonate with that point a lot. Good point. There's a good point for you as well. All right, let's talk about another team. I'm going to present walking up to Santa Claus. How about the Mississippi State Bulldogs? Speaking of teams in transition, speaking of teams with new coaches, ironic we just heard about Virginia because let's talk about Brian O'Connor. 20 years. Casually, as long as just about as long as some of you cats have been alive. Coaching at Virginia, hired at Mississippi State June 1st. However, that's not the wish. Not the wish. I think that the wish needs to be for Mississippi State to capitalize on the huge talent infusion they have under the new coach. O'Connor's not the concern. I think what we really need to see from Mississippi State is the more pressing newcomers. Now, whether that's transfers like Tomas Valsius, Aiden Teal, Nunnally, Tyler Pitzer, whoever, we can talk about these guys. They had a pretty freshman coming in. Jack Bauer, Jacob Parker, all joining with a team who's bringing back the Ace Reeses of the world. I really feel that these guys, how can all of these players come together? How will they mold as a team under this, obviously, veteran, winning coach? However, it's just a lot of new faces in a new place. What's going to be the gel? And I think for Mississippi State, they're going to need to find that gel relatively quickly to make waves in a very difficult conference. So that's the wish for Mississippi State as far as Drew would see it. Josh, we're going to go to you. And with regards to you and JB going very strict ACC and SEC, you are the first to bend, I believe. I believe that's an ACC team approaching.
It is. I'm going to take the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I'm going to go, it's still the Southeast, still my territory. It happens. Yeah, for Christmas this year, I think it's a basic answer, but I think Georgia Tech just wants to see a smooth transition from Danny Hall to James Ramsey. And boy, is this the roster to do it with. I mean, they have draft talent, maybe more than any other ACC team. Guys like Von Lackey, Drew Burris, Jaron Vincula, Alex Hernandez, other guys too. Ramsey has his work cut out for him for sure, since offense is like more of his strength anyways. There are definitely some question marks for Georgia Tech on the bump once you get past guys like Tate McKee, Justin Shiddak. I mean, there's a good chance the offensive unit is good enough to overcome any of the trepidations that you might have about the pitching staff, though. So yeah, coming off a year that GT felt like they were screwed out of a host opportunity, I think the main hope is James Ramsey just keep the ship afloat in the same kind of spot they were in at the end of the regular season last year.
I think I love that wish because it feels very natural. Like you said, it might seem obvious, but sometimes the obvious answer is the right one, and that's for a reason. JB, again, referring back to this SEC, ACC thing you guys are doing, Josh goes Georgia Tech. You hold strong. It looks like we're seeing another ACC team approach here.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be the Wake Forest. Demon Deacons is going to be our next team up. And for Wake Forest, it's really trying to get back on track. They're really known for the pitching lab and all that stuff for a while with Louder and Burns. And before that, they had Cusick and Jared Schuster, a lot of first-round arms, a lot of big arms that had come out of Wake Forest. And then it kind of trickled down last year. And especially now this year, they're trying to bounce back. They have to get the rotation back on track. And it starts with Morningstar at the top. I mean, he was a stud. He's got the stuff to do it. Just been a kind of inconsistent year last year. And then behind him, it's, a $3 million man, turned down a second-round pick from the Brewers, Chris Lavanis. He really struggled last year at the 5.91 ERA and had some injury issues, but hopefully he can bounce back and show the true big stuff that he has. And then Duncan Marston as well, another guy to deal with a lot of injuries. And he's a guy that had an over 9 ERA last year, but two guys that are high draft profile players that didn't get selected, come to campus, really struggle, and they're hoping to get back on track. And not to mention they had Grant Nicholson, one of the best prep arms here in North Carolina from Charlotte Christian. It's a big deal for them. They really just need to get the arms back on track, especially with Muscala leaving for Duke. So big test for the pitching staff.
It will be. Certainly, like you said, the pitching with Wake has been the narrative for such a long time. So to see them rebound in that way is something I think all the Deeks fans are going to want to see. And they're probably going to get a lot of agreement from the Wake supporters to that point. Well said. Jake, which team do we have approaching Santa now, sir?
Yeah, we have another ACC team. I'm going with Florida State. My wish for them is just the stars on that offense performing the way that they need to perform. So they lost a ton of guys in the draft. They lost big contributors they lost Jamie Arnold obviously on the pitching side, but they lost Alex Lodis and so many other guys on both sides of the ball. They bring in some big name pitchers. They're bringing in Trey Beard. He's one of my personal favorites from FAU. They're bringing in Bryson Moore from UVA, who could both give them a ton of valuable innings this year. But when I talk about the stars, it's mostly on the offensive side. Catcher Hunter Carnes, first baseman Miles Bailey, Cal Fisher at third, Chase Williams in the outfield. They all have experience and they all have postseason experience, which I think is a good note. I think if those guys kind of carry the weight of the offense, not to say that they're the only hitters, but they're the bigger name guys. I think they kind of lead the path for this offense to get going. And as we've mentioned so many ACC teams at this point, it's going to be tough, not just with Florida State, but there's some heavy hitters like Virginia, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Clemson, Miami, Wake Forest, all these teams. It's going to be tough to see who comes out on top. But I think FSU has as good a chance as any of them.
Well said. Absolutely. I love that, just to see the stars align, so to say, right, Jake? I think that would be really huge for the Seminoles. I'll keep it in Florida with my next team approaching, and we'll just go with the pure Florida Gators here. Although pure, depending on which newspapers you listen to, may not be the right adjective there, which is again a perfect transition. I think Florida. We need to see this very talented team overcome inconsistencies in the coaching staff, and that is defined in a lot of ways. I'm going to say the first inconsistency that we need to see this team jockey with is Chuck Gerelman. He's going to another team in the SEC. I'll leave that to you all to look up. Far be it for me to have a favorite team or be biased. It ain't me. That said, obviously this is a big blow. Top assistant, recruiting coordinator for Florida for the past, I think it was 5 or 6 years even. Recently had been named the interim coach for reasons I'll get to in just a moment. Just tricky stuff. Of course, the second part of that, Kevin O'Sullivan, a longtime coach in Florida, obviously. He is under currently a leave of absence, suspended the first 3 games due to his actions at the Conway Regional last year at the end of the season. Did want to point out, read an interesting article from the Gainesville Sun that said that he was subject to a child welfare investigation made by one of his teenage children. A 6-page report from the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. No evidence of criminal wrongdoing. Guys, you guys know this. Being that I work in newspaper, these reports that they're referring to, this is like a legitimate police report that you can glean a lot of information from if you know where to look. So the fact that they're saying no evidence from either officials nor the reporters indicates to me that this leave of absence might be one that, and far be it from me to pry or project or assume, but it sounds like a serious situation that the O'Sullivan family is dealing with. So obviously that sucks, and we're wishing them all the best. But the team it's going to be something the team will jockey with. Hopefully, this is something that's resolved very quickly into 2026. We do know that on Halloween, an exhibition game for Florida, some assistants, Taylor Black and David Kopp, shared head coaching duties. Those are dudes who were in their 4th and 5th seasons with the team. So they've got some leadership still to lean on, but with O'Sullivan going on his leave and then all this stuff going on with his family, and then Geraldman, both of them now kind of off the grounds, so to say, in Gainesville. A lot of uncertainty. Josh, you've got some thoughts about these Gators. I'm curious, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the talk surrounding Florida is everything you've hit on this offseason. It's a lot of negativity, which it's probably pretty valid because I'm not here to speculate on what did or didn't happen with Kevin O'Sullivan, but like there's been a history of stuff there that when the report came across, it wasn't the most shocking thing to a lot of people.
Sure.
But another thing I wanted to hit on is, like you mentioned, losing someone from the pitching staff, losing a pitching coach that's so relevant. It's a blow to a lot of, like, most teams, obviously, no duh. But if there's any team that's going to recover from it, I think it might be this one, because we've talked about this pitching staff time and time again. I mean, like, it's so star-studded with, and anywhere from proven college guys all the way to like high-level draft prospects and everywhere in between. A lot of those guys both applies to them. I think if there's anyone that's going to actually be able to overcome something like that amongst all the turmoil that's going on with this program, I think they're set up very well. So, like, Florida fans listening to this, well, we're only talking about, like the negativity and all the coaching changes and switch ups and whatever. There is something pretty reliable to fall back on no matter what happens.
Absolutely, Josh. And that's something that I guess I had implied, but I'm really glad you said it, because it definitely does need to be said that we've seen. I mean, when you talk about, pitching factories of NCAA schools, Florida's got to be at the top of the conversation, certainly in the first paragraph of discussion, at least, because like you said, we've seen guys with promise get drafted. We've seen frontline guys get drafted dating back as far as I can think of in terms of pitchers in Florida. Name a more iconic duo. I'll wait. Josh, let's go to you, though, bud, for your 4th team approaching Santa Claus, Papa Noel. Who is it and what do they want?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the defending champs next, and this is like LSU fans are gonna like this one. It sounds crazy at first, but is it too soon to have the dynasty talks? I mean, LSU's at the point as a program where they can like comfortably set their sights on something bigger than every other program is striving for, and 3 championships in a 4-year span is widely considered to be a dynasty. And I mean, that said, the difficulty of this is very well known considering it hasn't been done since USC in the early 70s. And actually the closest we've seen to it is probably LSU in the 90s. But this team seems to have a better chance to pull off that feat than anyone we've seen in a while. And it wouldn't entirely seem like, I wouldn't really feel like all these teams in the transfer portal, considering all the that's been going on year over year, especially from last year to this year. I mean, like, the entire outfield this season is filled with returners from last year. The starting shortstop, Stephen Milam, coming back. I mean, also on the bump, sure, they lost 2 first-round guys in their Friday and Saturday starters, but I don't think a soul has doubts that Kason Evans and William Schmidt and, like, whoever fills in that last spot is going to fill right in, whether it be Maverick Rizzi or Jaden Newt or whoever. I mean, I think the easiest thing possible for me to come on here and say is obviously, like, oh, shocker, the defending champs won another championship under the tree, like groundbreaking analysis. But I think at a certain point, you got to look at the bigger picture and acknowledge that they have the chance to do something that none of the four of us have seen happen in our lifetimes.
No, I agree with you, and I think that does go beyond the, like you said, kind of the chalk pick of team repeats championship. It definitely goes beyond kind of the ease of that to say this can come into an all-time dynasty conversation. Jake, you've got something about the LSU Tigers, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think first of all, I don't think it's too soon to call it a dynasty. I think they're certainly at that point. But one thing you touched on it a little bit. One thing that comes along with that is just being able to almost kind of pick and choose which transfers you want to get at this point in this world. Everyone's transferring place to place, and like you look at some of the guys that LSU lost last year. Like obviously, like they lose Kate Anderson, Anthony Ianson, like Jared Jones, Chase Shores, like Ethan. It just goes on and on. Guys they lost in the draft, and you think like those are some heavy hitters. How are they gonna replace some of that in their lineup? Like they're gonna have to take a hit a little bit, but they don't. You see just some of these names they bring in. They have like infinite options on both sides of the ball, and I think just the amount of games that Jay Johnson's able to win and the way that he's been able to carry this program is just allowing them to just set themselves up even better in the future too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's like you said, it's a never-ending fountain of talent for this team, and so that again, when you think about kind of what Josh was alluding to a minute ago, the classic dynasties, it's like they just don't stop. I mean, I think about like the New England Patriots. It seems like when you lose a player, you get two more that are going to develop into stars in their wake. It's just one of those things you deal with. One of those things. JB, I'm curious who is next to approach. The line's getting a little thinner. We've got a fewer teams here in line. So, who is the patient team that's been waiting?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go to the other guys that I really like, the Big West. I'm going to UCSB and the Gauchos. I think for them, it really comes down to after losing Bremner, can Flora take the step up to replace him as the ace there? And then also kind of trying to fill in the rest of that rotation. Obviously, they got Triba, who's going to be a big piece there. They had in the pen last year, but I think one guy that's really big for them is a 3-year Big West star at Long Beach State and Kellen Montgomery. Montgomery made 14 starts a year ago, 15 a year prior. He had a 4.97 ERA last year, but he owned a 3.95 the year prior. I think for UCSB, it's really trying to tap into what Montgomery's got there and trying to get him back to his sophomore year's form for his senior season at UCSB and trying to help him slide into either Saturday or Sunday and kind of fill out that rotation with Flora.
Makes sense. Honestly, with Santa Barbara, you're talking Gauchos. I think that's the key things that I would expect to see from them on a Christmas wish list, and I'm glad to see that you and I are on the same page there. Jake, your fourth team, who is it? Who's coming up to Santa now?
Yeah, I'm going back to the ACC or the SEC one more time. I'm going to go with Arkansas. And my wish for them is similar, but in a slightly different way than what you said, Drew, about Mississippi State earlier. It's just the new group being able to mesh as well as last year's team did. They're another team that lost a ton in the draft. I think I counted 10 draft picks, 2 UDFAs, not to mention some of the seniors that graduated. So they lost a lot. And coming into this season, on the pitching side, Gackle is going to be likely the leader of the group there. But the question about that is who else is going to step up. They have some returners in Parker Coyle's coming back, Cole Gibbler's coming back. They bring in Ethan McIlvain from Vandy, Jackson Kircher from Oklahoma, James DeCremer from Oregon State. Like they have a lot of names there, but who's going to step up and perform in that rotation? And offensively, like they have their guys in Helfrich, Cam Kojal, Eloy also coming back. They bring in some big transfers and college baseball now favorite TJ Pompey coming over. Also, Zach Stewart's going to give them some big juice. They bring in Micah New. He was the Cape League MVP this past summer. It's just a lot of newness on both sides of the ball for them. And with a team that just made it to Omaha a year ago, those new guys have some big shoes to fill. But if they all mesh together, I think we think that they will. They're probably going to find themselves at or near the top of the SEC and hosting another regional at the end of the year.
Yep, it's difficult to count out the Hogs. JB, I'm getting word from my headset that you've got something on Arkansas. What do you got?
Yeah, Jake already hit it, but for me, it really comes down to replacing the power production, especially with Iredale and Wahiwa Aloy leaving. For me, and that's TJ Pompey, who can really get in there like you was talking about and just fill that role. And I think Pompey is the perfect guy for Arkansas. He fits in really well there, a big bat that they really needed. And I think he showed improved contact numbers last year and a better approach all around. So I think Pompey is going to be the key for Arkansas this year offensively.
When we get to the preseason, something that just hit me, and this is really off the cuff for the middle of the episode, y'all forgive me. The all college baseball now hype team, I think TJ Pompey may be the number 2 pick for that team. Behind our group favorite player at number 1 behind the dish. So, all right, very good. I love that about the Hogs. Jake, I think you're right, man. Arkansas is a team who's always in the mix. And like you said, it's another squad that needs to find their unity, but it's a team that can do it and do it quick and be dangerous. And so I'm on the same page with you there. Let's talk about another team. It's interesting. JB talked just a moment ago about Jackson Flora and how he needed to hold form essentially, or step up essentially. I'm going to go a similar route with Coastal Carolina. Want to talk about Cam Flukie, Josh. May I just say, I think when you said in our last episode an episode a moment ago that Cam Flukie had 2 arguably double plus pitches, 3 at least plus pitches, that has just corrupted my brain sense. I can't stop thinking about it. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It's an incredible fastball and slider. The curveball is big. It's I would still call it maybe just another look, but again, it's an advanced other look to where it is plus. Hadn't really need to change up yet, which is kind of dumb. This guy is just nasty. I'm curious though. So the wish for me beyond Flukie, just again, kind of like what we said with Chalowski earlier, just hold form. What rises around him to get Coastal maybe back to Omaha, if not back to the final? So it's going to be curious to see what they do, but it all kind of hinges again. I think it's the linchpin with Cam Flukie, who is just the prototype and certainly my number 1 college arm for 2026. Let's keep going though, guys. 4 teams remain in line. They've been patient. Josh, who is next to see Santa?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of a different route here. I'm sticking on the SEC with South Carolina, but most of the teams I've talked about are real contenders, or they have been contenders recently. South Carolina is an interesting one because they're not in as good of a spot as some of these other teams, but they feel like they should be. So I don't really know how to word this, but I'm going to say under the tree, South Carolina fans want Paul Maneri to finally take their program to the spot they hired him to get to. Like, he's approaching 70 years old, but they were aware of that when they hired him a couple years ago, so that's no excuse in the eye of Gamecock fans. I mean, they've gone out and gotten a great group of arms from the portal to put behind the likes of Jake McCoy and Brandon Stone. But the lineup is kind of like an island of misfit toys in a way right now. And that's not nearly the position that a once proud program feels like they should be in at year 3 under the current staff. So, I know most of their fans are a little fed up already and pretty much want him gone, if we're just being blunt. But ultimately, I think if they had the choice, they would want him to turn things around and turn South Carolina back into SEC contenders like they know they can be.
I think any self-respecting South Carolina fan, let me start with that. And that's not a dig at all. That's just me saying if we really are to be direct and honest with one another, I think they have to believe that this is one of the elite coaches in the game. Now, granted, he is older, sure, but he's a winner. And with this program, who needs to take that step forward, obviously they'd much rather have him leading them. Like you said, Josh, they'd much rather have him leading them to success than to leave altogether. I'm with you. I think that's an excellent Christmas wish for the Gamecocks.
I will say it's a little different. Like, I think you see these kind of things in other sports where you'll have an older coach that's had a lot of success at certain places when he's younger, gets out of the game for a little bit, or he kind of starts to decline at that school, and these other programs, I don't. This is off the top of my head. This is probably not the world's best comparison, but I think about John Calipari in basketball, where like he won a championship at Kentucky in 2012, had some solid seasons, but started to go downhill a little bit. Arkansas took a shot on him, and they're making postseason runs, and they're like right there in the middle of things already. That's what South Carolina kind of wanted to happen, and they've seen the exact opposite. Like they're right down there at the bottom with Missouri. It seems like pretty consistently, at least last year.
Yeah.
So I feel like what they saw happen with other places, there's not always obviously a 100% success rate, but it's a path that they thought was reliable enough, and they're just not getting the guys. And it's also like in-game stuff. Like Maneri is very clearly not who he used to be. So it's just a matter of can he turn it around at like the upper 60s, whatever age he is at this point.
You know, thinking about that kind of same thing, like you said, just we can draw the parallels to other sports. I think specifically of a coach in college football who was highly successful, went to a new opportunity, and it just didn't really work out. JB, do you know much about that?
I thought that's where you were going.
I'm kidding. Shout out Bill Belichick at home, our number one listener. We know you're listening. Thanks for your support of Prospects Live, Bill.
Hey, Mac Brown could go for the same thing at Carolina. Carolina's got a lot of experience on that front.
That's actually a great point. Well, you know, Mac Brown does apply. That's an excellent point, as a matter of fact. JB, we're not going to dog on UNC football anymore. I'm going to pitch it to you, sir, and let you crank this one out of the park. Who's the last kid in line for you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go with the Texas Longhorns, and on the opposite end of the boat of what you guys were just talking about, they went and poached the best coach on the market that they could find at the time and got Schloss. Now, Schloss, a year ago, he swung and missed big on the portal. They got some solid guys there, but not the names that everybody thought they were going to get from A&M with Lavalette and Grahovac and the gutting that they thought they were going to do. But this year they did a really good job. They get Tinney, they go after, and they also get Aiden Robbins, they get LeFew, and Ethan Larson as well, or Ashton Larson. They went after a lot of guys and then bringing a lot of big names. And now for Texas, it's kind of putting the pieces together and really just trying to help these guys take the next step. If Tinney and Robbins can really replicate what they had a year ago, that's huge for Texas, and that's what they really need. So I think that's what's big for Schloss to get to the next level.
Certainly. Hey, that makes sense, man. Just tick the boxes we didn't tick last year. It seems so simple, but it's such an obvious and effective wish for that reason, JB. I'm with you. Josh, you got something on the Longhorns?
Yeah, just more like a comment. I think they're in a really weird spot with a lot of teams that, I mean, you also see this across sports, but they're in a spot where they did so well last year in the regular season with this current coaching staff and with everything surrounding the team last year, and then it just bottomed out really fast in the postseason. They're in a position where you almost feel like the regular season, I don't want to say doesn't matter, because having a national seed and everything is super impactful and super important. But it's like you just want to fast forward to the postseason because we've already seen what they can do at the highest level throughout the course of an entire SEC schedule. I think they could be at the point where they just are focusing on the postseason, and you this is on a completely different level, but just for example, the Dodgers this past year, that team is way more talented than the 93 games they won in the regular season. But that didn't matter to them because all their sights are set on is the postseason because they know what they can do with that roster and with that staff. I think Texas is in a somewhat similar spot where you can sleepwalk through the regular season at a certain extent because that pitching staff is good enough to help you just sleepwalk through the regular season and still you be fine enough to get a national seed or something. I think their sights are set on something beyond May. And it's just a really odd spot as a fan and as a player because I feel like after last year doing what they did and then it bottoming out really fast, there's just a different perspective to look at the season through.
That is really interesting. And you're right. It could be something like that for Texas where they are almost aiming, they're aiming beyond where other teams might be aiming right now. And they certainly have the personnel to do it, whether it's on the field or from the dugout. Good point, Josh, and JB as well. Excellent stuff there. Jake, the second to last kid in line, he has been patient. What's he want for Christmas?
Yeah, I'm moving away from the ACC and SEC finally with Arizona State. For them, I don't think there's a doubt that they're going to be able to hit. But my wish for them is going to be a pitching staff that can compete with the tops of the Big 12. So the first thing I notice about this team is that there are some really tough name pronunciations on this team.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, Arizona State players, if you're listening, you might want to close your ears when I say your name. But the biggest returners I got for them, top of my list, second baseman Nuu Contrades. I think I nailed it. I really think I did. An outfielder Landon Hairston. They also bring in some big time transfer bats with UNLV's Dean Toigo, then the Cal duo shortstop PJ Maltzeritis, and first baseman Dominic Smaldino, both coming over from Cal, is going to be able to contribute in that lineup for sure. And also they bring in a catcher from Oregon, Cohen Nikolai. He wasn't their starter last year for the Ducks, but I think he's going to be able to instantly contribute for them behind the plate and at the plate in the lineup. But on the pitching side was the thing I mentioned as the bigger question marks. I think they definitely have potential to be a really good staff. They lost a lot of innings with Ben Jacobs and Lucas Kelly going in the draft last year. They're returning Jaden Alba and Easton Barrett, who could make up for some or even a lot of those innings. They also bring in TCU's Cole Klecker with the cross-conference transfer there. But who knows? Maybe reliever prospect Cole Carlin could carve out a role in the rotation before it's all said and done. But right now, I personally have TCU as the top team in the Big 12. But Arizona State certainly in that group with Arizona and West Virginia as the ones that could knock them off that top spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. JB, you've got some thoughts on Arizona State, and I'm sure it's going to start with my first thought is, man, Jake killed those pronunciations. He even sold himself short, but he did great.
Yeah, Jake, you did incredible. I was proud of you there from the pre warm-ups that we had earlier. But
yeah.
To hit on that too, it's funny that you mentioned his name. Dean Twigo played high school ball with Dean Twigo. That's where I'm going with this comment. He played all 4 years with Dean. He is in my class, all 4 years of high school. 2 years at Cypress JC, and then he won a natty at Hope International, I believe, the NAIA school there. Then went to UNLV, and he went crazy last year. So shout out Dean. From back in the Yorba Linda Mustang days. That's what we got there.
Man,
that was the one that I was most confident in being able to say right, and you just completely ruined it for me right there. So I appreciate that.
So what we need to have happen here is obviously we need to get him on the show and get him to explain what he's going to do for Arizona State in the coming year, and that way you guys can talk. You guys can chop it up, talk about your time in Yorba Linda, and then Jake can be like, "Hey, man, I told everybody you were gonna kill it this year." So
yeah,
Josh and I will also be there.
We'll be the pretty faces. It's okay.
That's what we're here for, Bud. I mean, we know what we're here for. We know our roles. Speaking of knowing our roles, the last kid in line, I brought them here. And guys, we're going to talk about an elite. Again, we're talking Stanford, the Cardinal. And what in the world could this team want? Go with me on this, gents. Some people, I might be in that group, maybe not. Some might argue that no other school is better than getting its top flight, big name prep guys to campus than Stanford. I would say maybe them and LSU. I read earlier that since 2015, only one guy they've had committed has been lost to the draft in terms of prepsters. I think that might be tested this year. There's a gentleman, a shortstop, Tyler Spangler, certainly an exciting player in this class from the prep pool. He could have his name called pretty early day one. I mean, I'm thinking potentially a first rounder. If you happen to listen to what some crazy folks at Prospects Live might say, it could be a top 10 pick. All right. We'll see how that goes. But I think for Stanford, their wish needs to be for Tyler Spangler to make it to campus, which is interesting because this is going to be a completely different wish than we've had on the show thus far. But I like this one. Obviously, we know that Spangler has a lot of projection, certainly. but still some work to do. Still some work to do. JB, I know you have a lot of thoughts on Spangler, and I'm going to let you do the major talking about his work to be done, if that's okay, in addition to what I know you're going to say. That said, I think that if Spangler is maybe the exception rather than the rule, uh, still hopefully Stanford will bring in some guys. I mean, they've got Archer Horn, who's a two-way guy. A lot of bat speed, some solid defense in the dirt. I mean, he's got a fastball that's up to 95, a changeup with, I'm pretty sure, two-plane movement at this point. I mean, for a prep, that's pretty impressive to have two solid pitches. And then Bryce Hill, fastball up to 99 miles an hour on a 6.5 frame. Hello. I mean, that's premium clay. I think Stanford would be happy to have both of those guys, but certainly to have them with Spangler, what a delicious three-tiered cake of freshmen that they could have joining the Cardinal. JB, let's talk about Spangler and then make your thoughts on Stanford as well, sir.
Yeah, so Spangler, saw him a lot this summer at USA. Really talented kid. You know, he looks the part, honestly. You know, he's got the big frame, long, wiry, moves really well up the middle, will stay at short. You know, everybody was pretty confident. Outside of Aiden Ruiz, he's probably the best defender that was there in that prep class. Great defender. He's got the frame you love. He just really struggled pulling the ball in the air, which is kind of a concern. But, you know, he's got all the stuff that you would like there. It's just some swing changes need to be made. But he's got the frame and everything you dream of with a shortstop. To compare him to Corey Seager like people did, but he's more athletic than Seager, I think. So it's kind of a great frame and projection that you'd love to have there.
Right.
Trying to build off of that, I was going to say a rare decommitment from them this summer as well. James Tronstein, a big commit that they had, went to Vandy late in the cycle after USA, actually. He moved on, and another wish for them that's kind of in a different direction with the current staff is Charlie Bates. I think Charlie Bates is a big guy. They need to take a step forward, a high prep draft prospect that makes it to campus. And I think this season, you know, he showed some flashes last year, but more consistency is what they really want. And obviously Sasaki, they hope for a big year. But for me, Charlie Bates is a guy that they really, really are going to hope to take a big step up to replace guys like Becerra and Charlie Somm and some other guys they lost this past year.
I agree. I think that's a great point. That, man, maybe Stanford's got two things they're wishing for. Maybe that, because I don't know. Now that you say that about Charlie Bates, I think that would have been just as good of a Christmas wish, honestly, for him to take that step forward. Maybe we'll give it to Stanford. They're the last kid at the dish. They get double the meal. Good for you. It's like Tiny Tim, guys. God bless us, everyone. 20 teams, 20 wishes, guys. A lot of good discussion here. I've had a good time spreading the Christmas spirit to all 20 of these teams. But alas, our time together, much like the ghosts in A Christmas Carol, our time on this globe draws nigh. And so we must say adieu. But before we do, I'm going to ask you guys to tell the folks at home where they can find you between our episodes of College Baseball Now, and also what you're working on right now at the site and beyond. JB, go ahead.
Yeah, JB_Sebastiano on Twitter. Obviously, we worked as a group on that mock draft the other day, so that'll be exciting for everybody to get out. Also, going to be working on our last under the radar draft prospect list, and hopefully for myself, a couple of personal prep and college lists to put out there for everybody to chew into as well. So that's what we got going on.
Looking forward to all of that. It's going to be some good stuff. Jake, you're up. Tell the folks where to find you and what you're working on, man. You had an article drop and had an interesting bit of feedback. If you want to share that,
I did. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Barge. I talked about it last time at the end, but we're actually releasing our conference previews now. First one was released a couple days ago. The Southern Conference. He mentioned the feedback. The commissioner of the Southern Conference reached out and gave us some of his thoughts on the articles. That was pretty cool to see. So get on there and check that out. I got the next 2 or 3 already lined up. The next one's going to be the SWAC, and then there's a couple more coming. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for the SWAC attack, indeed. And Josh, tell the folks where they can find you, what you're working on.
Yep, you can follow me on X at JoshCatlett3. I've been working on the same kind of stuff that JB mentioned. We're about to get that new mock draft put out pretty soon. Probably by the time this is released, it'll probably be out based on the draft lottery that was put out that was announced yesterday. I wrote probably like a third of the blurbs of those picks in there, so I have that going out. We have the college top 100 coming out pretty soon too. I've written a few things in there. I'm excited to get that list fully polished and everything, so we can, improve upon our last list. And I'm excited. The more we expand these lists, the more we develop and put them out this early. It's good stuff. And so we're always working on good things around here.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed. If you are interested for whatever reason, you can follow me on the socials. That'd be the Twitter machine, on Instagram, on Blue Sky at Drew is okay. Want to remind you all to please check out Prospects Live. It is you've got a couple more days as of December 10th when we're recording this to lock in your price for prospectslive.com for the coming year. As of right now, you can sign up for all of our college baseball stuff for as low as $5 a month and lock in that rate over the foreseeable future. I'm pretty sure it lasts ad nauseum, rather than when it goes up to still the lowest in class rate of $7 per month. Incredible value, but you can get it all at prospectslive.com. Please check that out. As the boys alluded to, we've got a ton of stuff coming out. Jake is killing the conference previews. I know he is really exerting himself, and it's outstanding. So proud of that work. JB, like he said, is working on the Under the Radar dudes. That article series is just amazing. I love reading that. It's like a refresher on dudes for me even. I love it. And as Josh alluded to, we have got the top 100 list coming out very, very soon, in addition to the mock draft. Wow, just a ton of content in December. I'm so proud of this team. It's a real treat to work alongside you guys and to see the content that you guys put out. It's truly, truly special. But speaking of truly special, you watching at home, truly special. And at this time of year, the Christmas season, on behalf of Josh and Jake and JB and everybody at Prospects Live, we want to wish you the happiest holidays imaginable. We want to thank you for watching or listening to the podcast, and to all of our podcasts for supporting the site, supporting us. We appreciate it. We love you. Happy holidays. Boys, do we have a quick carol in us? No? All of you are shaking your heads no. No caroling. Okay, well, that's fine. Maybe next year we'll talk about it more, but until next time, for JB, for Jake, for Josh, I'm Drew, and we'll see you on the next episode of College Baseball Now.